welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing part 3 of my winter 2023 houseplant tour series. We're going to be looking at my bedroom. So far we have looked at the office and the living room, and now we're in the bedroom, the last part of the series. So if you haven't watched those other videos, I suggest you go watch them now or at the end of this one. Either way, watch them sometime. You can see my entire collection and see how I keep all my plants. If you are new here and you don't know me already, hi, my name is Emma and I make houseplanting content all over the internet. So if you want to follow along with my houseplanting journey and maybe learn something along the way, stick around, watch some more of my videos and subscribe to my channel. If you're not new here, thank you so much for coming back. I hope you enjoyed this tour as well. Right, let's get into the bedroom. Yes. So this is my bedroom. I absolutely love this room. It's definitely one of my favorite rooms in the whole flat, just because I feel like I've really jungle-fied it over time and made it into something that I absolutely love. I guess we'll start here on top of the bed. We've got 2 shelves. It's where I like to keep some trailing plants. Starting on the left, I've got kind of a really leggy, a bit sparse Monstera Adansonii. It's one that I really need to kind of give a makeover to. You can see that kind of whole section in the middle there that just doesn't have any leaves. It trails down quite far. Maybe in March I can make that happen. Next to it, I have one of my Silver Ann pothoses. I think this is my mother plant, the one I got originally. And I got this one because it has so much silver on its leaves. I saw it in the shop and I just couldn't leave without it. It's just so freaking beautiful. Got a Cebu Blue next to it. I think this is one of the ones I have that has the biggest leaves. So maybe I should try putting this one on a pole because its leaves are slightly more mature. But at the same time, I also like it hanging down. My goal with my hanging ones is to maybe one day combine them into like a massive hanging basket of them, just hanging down over the bed. I think that would look so pretty. Next to that, I have a Philodendron Brazil. I'm pretty sure I grew this one from cuttings like this size, but they were all mid cuttings, so all of the new growth has grown in smaller since, which I'm not super mad at. I also quite like how I'm getting half moon leaves throughout because that's a bit of fun and it just adds to that little bit of drama. And oh my god, I love how the new growth comes in this gorgeous pinky color and then fades to the bit more of the lime green. It's just such a cool plant and they're like so easygoing that I love it. I barely even care for a lot of the stuff up here and they're just like set and forget plants and they're perfectly happy just doing their own thing for the most part. Next to it, I have my Hoya Crimson Queen. I haven't yet gotten rid of this one, but I think it is what I'm going to trade away fairly soon. It's not one of my favorites. I did have it on a trellis for quite a long time, but I ended up taking it off. It's just a very slow grower, and between that one and the Crimson Princess, I would pick the Princess any day. I just like the coloring a little bit better on that one, and I have more of like an attachment to that one than this one, so it's fine. It just is what it is. This here is one of my favorite epibremnums. It is a Pothos Enjoy, and it's probably one of the plants I've had for the longest, and I love it so much. I've propped it so much. If I hadn't propped it, it would probably be like down to the bed at this point because it would have grown so much. But I just love these sort of little leaves that have these splashes of white in them, and it just feels so full all the time. It's one that I haven't really had any issues with regarding legginess or anything. It just grows quite compact, which I quite like. This up here is actually a reverted Syngonium albo. It was from a plant that I got in a rescue box, oh gosh, I don't know, sometime in 2022, and it had some bits that were albo-y and some bits that were just plain green. So I actually separated them out and I made a pot of entirely green Syngonium, which I thought was a good idea at the time, but I'm kind of bored with it. I've kind of lost my love in general for Syngoniums. You've probably seen that I've not had tons throughout this entire tour, and that's just because they've been not holding me as much as they used to. I feel like during 2022 I had a massive moment with Syngoniums, and kind of going forward I don't feel like I love them as much. I feel like they're just so much more pest prone and like they're a bit more sensitive than I feel like I want, and I don't think the variety within them is the kind of variety that I desire as much. There are some that I still really love, and I'm not going to get rid of all of them, but I think this one is probably one that will end up getting given away or sold or something like that. Next to it is an Aglaonema, the White Lance, I believe. It's got these like really skinny leaves with beautiful blue silver on them. Obviously, I like it for that. I haven't had an aglaonema in so long before this. They're a genus of plant that I really do like because they are so easygoing. But the ones I had previously, they didn't bore me, but like I had a pink one which wasn't really my vibe, and I don't know, I really like this one now though. I like how it goes very whoosh, where a lot of my plants are very vertical or climbing or trailing down. This one kind of spreads out like that, which I really like. Speaking of trailing plants, I have a couple here. I have this very measly string of spades. It's literally got 3 strands. And to be honest, I probably should chop and prop it because it is kind of getting long for itself, but it's just... it's kind of sad, but it's really cute at the same time. It's just in soil and just chilling up here. Nothing special. Next to it is a lipstick plant. It's something that I had never tried before, but I think they're so cool, and they've got these gorgeous purple backs to their leaves. And I think at some point it did give me tiny little flowers, but I don't know if they were quite lipstick flowers yet. Mine is still quite an immature plant, but it is actually growing really well, and I propagated these, I think, in water, and now they're just in soil, and they're perfectly happy. On the end here, I have another string of, this one is a string of turtles. I honestly don't think I've shown this one that often, just because it is still quite small and quite hard to capture the fullness of it on camera, but it just has the tiniest little leaves. Look at those little things. They look like tiny little turtles, and they're so freaking cute. Mine is also flowering in the minute, which is kind of weird because we're like in the middle of winter, but I mean, I'll take what I can get. I'll probably end up chopping and propping this one as well because it's not super long, but it's getting to the point where I feel like Cleo wants to get it from the bedside table. And so if I can maybe chop it around there and prop those and stick it back in the top, I can have a fuller one. And then at the very end, at the top, is my Hoya Pupicalix Hawaiian that I have just on a trellis. I really like this one. It is a fairly easy growing one. I recently just put in the sort of cutting at the bottom to make it a bit fuller. It's just growing so well and so easily, but I'm hoping that having the trellis will help it grow a little bit faster and with bigger leaves. I know Claire's grows insanely fast, so maybe once mine's a little bit more established, it'll start zooming like hers has. This Monstera Standelliana is one of my favorites at the minute. It has just become such a beautiful plant. It's one of the ones that I recently did a care video on just because I'm feeling so happy with it. I literally grew this from cuttings, and if any of you have ever tried to propagate Monstera Standelliana, you'll know that it propagates so freaking slowly. It's the slowest propagating plant I think I have ever had. I'm pretty sure I've had this plant, this exact one, for 3 or 4 years now, and it's only just at this point. I did actually recently chop the top off to propagate, and those are just in sphagnum at the minute in hopes that I can prop them and put them back in the bottom to continue making it fuller. But I feel like this plant is one that really looks quite full from the get-go. It's one that really does need support, so I'm glad I have it on a moss pole and it is loving it. It's like proper attached in there, so that's really good, and I'm hoping that it continues to love this and produce beautiful big leaves with some little spots of variegation. Mine isn't the most variegated, but I kind of like it like that. Like, it's like whenever you get a tiny bit of white, it's like a bit of a surprise compared to the really dark leaves, and even the really dark leaves have like sort of constellation-y variegation on them as well. So it's one that I am really loving right now, and I'm appreciating it so much more than I have in the past. Holy freaking cow, my Rhaphidophora tetrasperma is touching the ceiling, guys. It is really high up there at this point, and I am not quite sure what I'm going to do with it. I need to do something just because it is getting so tall. I probably could chop those as well and prop them to put back in the bottom, but I don't know if I want to. It is such a full plant already, and there are so many bits down here that aren't even attached to the pole even, so I don't know, maybe I'll just keep propping it and giving it to people in swaps or for free because it is such a freaking fast growing plant. Definitely my fastest growing plant in my whole collection. So next to it I have a golden pothos, and this is one of the first things that I did when we got our flat. Put some pothos along the top up here to cover these beams that we have in our flat. In our bedroom specifically, we don't really have them in any other room, they're just in here, and I really wanted to put some golden pothos or devil's ivy on them to kind of bring out the jungle vibes in here. It does get a little bit of light from the window behind me, but not tons. Overall, just enjoys growing here. I do tend to underwater a little bit just because it's kind of out of my way, but it doesn't seem to mind it at all, and it's still growing perfectly happy. And it kind of joins in with the Marble Queen over here, which is one that massively suffered over the Christmas period when I got sick and I couldn't water it. It lost a whole bunch of leaves. You can see it is not looking the happiest. It has been watered now, so it's not as floppy, but in general, it is still not a happy camper. And I probably need to do something about it because, like, you can still see there's more and more leaves coming off. I think it might need another makeover, unfortunately. I mean, maybe fortunately, maybe I will like it better in a new spot, but yeah, that's kind of this archway of plantage. So on this side of the ceiling, I have another golden pothos here. This one is probably my longest plant because it literally goes from here all the way up around to about there and then all the way back, and it is growing these leaves underneath the grow light now, and it is really happy there. Like, I think it massively adds to the jungle vibes of my home, and I really like how it looks. It's just such an easygoing plant, and I highly suggest that anyone have a golden pothos because they're just so easy and cheerful and inexpensive but beautiful and fun. And I love it so much. On this side, I have a Syndapsis because I could not have these beams without putting a Syndapsis on them. And I don't know if it's the best option for here because the leaves don't quite cover up the beam in the same way that the golden pothos leaves do, but otherwise I think it is quite happy. I like looking at it up here. I mean, this one that's trailing down hits my head loads, so I need to probably pin it up at some point, but it is just generally a really happy little one that hangs out here. I end up underwatering this one quite a lot, but that's okay, it happens, and it's still not mad at me for it. It's just a beautiful little satin pothos. While I'm here, let me talk about this one as well. Just have a single plant in the hallway at the moment. It is a cast iron plant, the plain green form, but I love this plant so much. It is probably one of the easiest going plants that I have. They can tolerate the widest range of temperatures and humidities and light conditions, and they do not complain. This is kind of a spot in my home where I rotate plants in and out of it because I can't keep anything in here solidly just because it is so dark. You kind of get some light from the bedroom window, but relatively little for what a plant would want. So I've had Calatheas here, I've had Sansevierias here, I've had Aspidistras here. It all just depends on what I'm feeling at the time, and right now my cast iron plant is in the rotation, so this is where she's living for the time being. And I mean, I think it looks nice. Gives a little greenery to the hallway, which is otherwise kind of like not boring, but like not exciting either. Down here, I have a plant that I'm still unsure about. So this one was imported to me as a variegated Soderoy plant, which, I mean, it looks like a variegated Soderoy, and I think the variegation on them is like really cool. Like, they look so freaking funky because it's already a silvery plant, and add variegation in and it just makes it even more cool. But I heard when I was doing research about them that the variegation is actually a virus. This is something that was happening like a few years back now, and it's actually a virus. It's not actually variegation. So I do have this one separate from all of my other plants. Nothing can touch it. I will wash my hands after filming this section of the video before I move on. But it's just one that I'm so unsure about because I like how it looks, but if it's unwell, I don't want to keep it, and I don't know what to do with it. I can't sell it to somebody knowing that it might be unwell, or trade it to somebody knowing that it might be unwell. But I also, like, don't feel like I want to keep it if it is unwell. Maybe it's just one that I need to get rid of somehow. Maybe if anyone wants one fully well knowing that it's unwell, if you're in the UK, let me know. It is still growing, and the new growth still has some variegation on it. It's not in the brightest of spots. I need to keep this one away from my other plants, and so I'm not able to give it prime location, but it's still growing, so if you want to give it a go, let me know at your own risk, because I just don't know what to do with it, and I would prefer to be able to put something else here because I like putting stuff on my bedside table, but I have nowhere else to put this one. Got this little funky corner over here with kind of bits and bobs of everything from my Epiprimum and Plissamum, which I absolutely love. It's got very similar leaves to the Aglaonema white lance that is over my bed. They're very similar in style, but this one kind of grows up in vines, and it's perfectly attached to the moss pole. It's properly stuck on there without me doing all that much. So that's fun. It is nearly at the top of the pole now, so I probably will need to chop and prop it, but maybe not for a little bit because it has definitely slowed down its growth in winter. Back there, I have the cutting of my Mitchelletiana. It is yet to do anything, but it's not rotting. And I have checked the bottom recently, so it's fine. I'm not going to pull it out today just because I'm trying not to disturb it too much. It is perfectly happy in there so far. I'm hoping it stays happy, but I am not totally sure. We will see. In front of it is my variegated Epiprimnum pinnatum. This is another one that I've kind of been struggling with. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not had pests or anything, but I think it just grows so freaking slowly that I don't know. It grows so much slower than all of my other Epiprimnums, and it's not providing like big growth or anything. And honestly, the leaves, when they have the variegation on them, I think they look a little bit sick because they get all like warped and funny looking. This one's a bit better, but this one really gets funny. So I don't know, something about it. It might be one that I end up swapping at the plant swap coming up, but who knows. On this side, we have my favorite Sansevieria. It is a Sansevieria Metallica, and oh my goodness, I love, 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 love it so much. It's got like this beautiful mix of light minty green and white stripes, and it has grown so well for me. And like, it's kind of even hard to see in this light, but I think it's my biggest Sansevieria as well. I mean, I know they're technically Dracaena, but like, anyways, I'm gonna call them Sansevieria because I find it so much easier to differentiate them that way. But it's my biggest one. It is quite tall, and I know it is loving being so close to that grow light, because although Sansevierias can tolerate less light, I could put this one in the hallway where my cast iron plant is. It will definitely grow a lot better in more light, and so if you can give them more light, I definitely suggest it. Here we have a bit of an awkward situation where I have my Epiprimnum Couchang sitting in my ZZ Raven pot. It's just because I don't have a cash pot for that one, so whenever I water it, I don't want the water to just spill everywhere. The Couchang's doing okay. It's not in the best shape. If you want to see that a little bit more, go check out my Epiprimnum collection video, because I don't really want to talk about it again because it doesn't make me the happiest. And then my ZZ Raven sprawling in the background. I think this one's actually probably also enjoying the light as well. Like the Sansevieria, they don't need tons of light, but they will like it and probably grow a bit better for you if you do put it in brighter light. So I'm hoping that maybe come springtime I can get some new growth out of this one, because I think this bit grew in 2022 summer. So if we can get more, because it has gotten a bit sparse in the last few years, and I know that it is my fault for not watering it properly, but yeah, it's a gorgeous one and I still love it, but it is just gotten a bit awkward. On that shelf below those, I've got a couple of Syndapsis plants. This one on the right here is a Syndapsis exotica, I believe, or a Trebi. I'm not too sure. I'll show you my other exotica in a minute, but my other exotica looks quite different, so I think they might be different species of Syndapsis. I'm not sure. It's something that still eludes me, but I got it because it does look so different to mine, and it is super long and traily. I've just had to like loop it up so the vines don't get down at like Cleo length, because then they can get dangerous. And then the other one is a Syndapsis Silver Ann, and this is one that I actually took from cuttings from my other plant. I think it is growing super well. I think this one has such good genes. Like, you can see how silver some of these leaves are. They're just really fantastically silver. and even though some of them have this kind of weird marbling in them, it is a very healthy plant and I'm happy with it, and hopefully I can get it to trail down somewhere sometime, but for now I think it's fine just how it is. I have a few plants just hanging out in the window here. I will take them down so you can see them a bit better, but they are just enjoying the southwest window here and getting quite a lot of bright light, which I think they really like. Those three are Hoyas and that is a jungle cactus, so I think they are going to really appreciate the amount of light that they're getting there. This is the jungle cactus and it is just a mistletoe cactus. And I got this one around Christmas time because I really wanted it and I think it is so cool. It feels so like weird and soft when you kind of massage it. But I think it has been growing pretty well. There's definitely some new growth on here since I've had it, which you wouldn't think you'd be able to notice, but I definitely have. I think it is enjoying being so close to the window and getting quite a lot of light. But it's just a pretty little one and I'm hoping that I can get it to like trail down really nicely and just grow super well. It is a jungle cactus and so they would prefer slightly more humidity, I think. But in general, my home tends to be quite humid, so I'm not worried about whether or not it's getting enough. This one here, in one of my macrame hanging pots, is a Hoya Croniana Splash. It's different than the Super Silver that I have, that I'll show you in a second. It has like a lot less flashy leaves. They're more solid green. They have a little bit of silvery bits in them, but nothing compared to the Super Silver. And this one is surprisingly growing quite well. For a while it was doing absolutely nothing, but I think since it's been in the window here it actually has helped quite a bit. I'm a little bit surprised it hasn't sun stressed just because it is in the brightest spot in our flat and it does get some direct sunlight, but at the same time in the UK there's not all that much bright light, so I'm not that surprised. This one here is a Hoya Polyneura, aka a fishtail Hoya, because the leaves look so much like little fishtails and I really love this one. I think it's really cool, but I also got it because it looks exactly like my tattoo on my arm, which is a made-up plant. It's not a real plant, but I don't know, it looks exactly like this one, so maybe they got inspiration from this one. I doubt it, but it's possible. And this one does have tiny little bits of splash in there in the leaves, and I think because it's in higher light, it might get some more, like you can see down there. But for the most part, it's just solid green, and I think it lives pretty happily in the window. It did get massively sunburnt last summer during like the massive heat wave in the UK because it was in the window and it was touching the window and I think it just got too hot. But all of those leaves have come off now and I think it's looking quite healthy. It's a bit dusty, but it's quite healthy. And then the last one in the window is a Hoya Rosita, which, oh my goodness, the last time I pulled this down, it did not have these insanely like sun-stressed leaves. This is what I was talking about. This plant has definitely gotten sun-stressed since it's been there. When I got it, most of its leaves were like this sort of greeny color. They still have the black margin, but they definitely didn't have this purpley reddy sheen to them, and like the new leaves didn't come out like this. So obviously these plants can get sun stressed, and I quite like how it's looking a bit sun stressed. I guess that's why it's called a Rosita, because it kind of blushes in the sunlight. I really like this. I wasn't really expecting it to sun stress, and I genuinely have not seen it since it's been sun stressed. I've not pulled it down in a while. You can see it is a bit dusty. I probably should give it a shower and a fertilize pretty soon because I'm hoping I can get it to flower, because that would be great. I think I got into Hoyas massively too late to get them in the season that they would flower, but at the same time I've seen loads of Hoyas flower out of season, so I'm not sure, and I'm just hoping I can get them to flower one day because it would be really cool, and I've heard Hoya flowers smell amazing, so I'm really looking forward to that. For now, I'm just gonna have to enjoy watching them sun stress because I think that's a bit fun as well. It's fun that a lot of other plants don't have, so it's a bit of excitement for Hoyas, even more than I already have. And then on this side we have my little cactus corner where I keep all of my cacti and succulents that I'm trying to grow. As you can see, the humidity is freaking high right now. That's just with no humidifier or anything. My home is just generally quite a humid place. Gosh, it's gone up since I started filming as well. It's probably because I'm speaking a lot, but it's just really, really humid. We often have a dehumidifier on in this space, especially at night, because just with breathing, you end up creating a lot of humidity. And I did have some issues with mold and stuff around there at one point. I have cleaned it up since, so it's fine now, but it's just not something that I wanted to deal with, and so putting some lower humidity plants here that could tolerate being around a dehumidifier was kind of important to me. Even though this is not a cactus or succulent, it is a plant that is totally okay with being in a less than humid environment. This is a Manjula pothos. I've just got this one on a pole. It's one of the few epipremnums that I actually have on a pole. Epipremnum I should say. Most of them I have hanging down. But this one is really, really liking it. It's growing some quite big leaves there. I think it's really, really liking being next to the mother grow light. This grow light has been absolutely amazing here, and because this spot doesn't necessarily get that much light otherwise, it is literally the only reason that these plants are able to survive. At the back, this is my jade plant. If you've seen my January favorites video, you'll have seen that this one is definitely growing. I think it's liking being here under the grow light a lot. Before it was just in a windowsill and wasn't getting all that much light, and I would really never notice it growing, but now that it's underneath this grow light, I can definitely see that there's some new growth coming in, and that is really, really exciting. That is the only one of the cacti and succulents here that are in soil, except for those props, which they're just props, so we'll see. All of the rest of these are in semi-hydro from Soil Ninja. In like November time, they challenged me to try out succulents in semi-hydro, but instead of using a self-watering system, which is what I use for all of my other stuff in pond and semi-hydro, you just leave these like without a water reservoir. You probably water them similar to what you would if they were in soil, maybe like once a month, maybe even a bit less, maybe more in the summer. It just depends on the plants in your environment. But instead of letting them sit in the puddle of water, you let them drain out, and the substrate will hold on to a little bit of moisture and slowly release it over time. Just hitting my own plants. So all of these ones are in that. This one is a little Kalanchoe plant that I got from Claire. I think it's doing okay. It didn't have the most roots on it when I repotted it, so I'm hoping that it'll grow some more, but I really don't know. This little guy is a little baseball cactus. So freaking cute. I didn't know that I loved it so much, but I really do like it quite a lot. It's just so funny and like blobbly, and maybe at some point I'll be able to propagate these little other baseballs, but for now it's just gonna be as it is. And then the 6 that I have in here, I freaking love this method because this is just a takeaway, I think Chinese or something container, and all of these little aeroid tower pots, the 5cm ones, fit perfectly in this little situation, so I'm able to have 6 plants in there and they just fit perfectly. At the back, that proper cactusy cactus, I'm not sure of the idea of it. If any of you know, please do let me know. It is one that kind of has a bluey silvery hue to it, but lots and lots and lots of orange spikes. I think it has grown maybe a tiny bit since I've had it, but it's really hard to know with cacti because they are a lot slower growing, whether or not they're growing. You can kind of only see it if you look at like an old picture versus what they are now. And because I only got this one in December, I don't really have an old picture of it to see whether or not it was growing. This funky little one back here is a sort of aloe. I'm not really sure what type it was. I just thought it looked really cool. I liked the bluey silveriness of its leaves, if that's what you can call them, plus the little kind of brownie spikes on it. I just thought it was really cute, and it does look like it's growing a little bit. You can kind of see the green in there, which makes me think that it is growing, so I think that one is happy enough. This one's another little cactus, which didn't have an ID. If you know what it is, please tell me. It would be much appreciated. It's doing perfectly fine, but I got this one because I kind of liked how the spikes would go like inwards, so I would be a lot less at risk of stabbing myself with it. This Echeveria is a sad one at the moment. I'm kind of upset about this, but suddenly it just decided to like drop only half of the plant. Like, what? What is going on? Like, I just looked at it the other day and half of the leaves had fallen off, and I would just tap them like this and they would just pull away. These ones, they're obviously still sturdy enough on there, so I'm not worried about those ones, but it was just so random, and I've got no idea why that happened because I've been treating it the same as all of these other plants, so it was just very confusing for me. If any of you know why that might be happening, let me know, but I was very, very confused by it, so I mean, it's fine. We'll see what happens. This little, what looks like prickly guy at the front is actually just a really soft pickle plant. It's got the most adorable little leaves, and it was a lot fuller before. You can see there is some sort of dead growth in there, unfortunately, but I think otherwise it's okay. It has adjusted pretty well to the semi-hydro life, and I just think it's super cute and soft and adorable, so I'm happy that I have it. And then this tiny little thing, like, look at that compared to the size of my finger. Like, it is just so small and ditty, and I think it's so freaking cute. There was no way I was not gonna get this when I was buying cacti from my local garden center. And then up here, the big one is a blue myrtillo cactus, and this is one that Claire gave me when I told her I wanted to do this experiment. I think it is so cool. I love the coloring on it, but this one does have quite intense spikes. I'm pretty sure I could cut them off, but I don't want to. I kind of like the vibe of them with the spikes. And since it's not in a spot that I'm worried that Cleo can get to easily, I think it's pretty much fine and I'm not worried about it. This one also seems to be doing perfectly fine in the semi-hydro life. This is the only kind of bigger one that I have in it. So it's a bit more of a important test to me because it looks so cool like this and I'm so happy I have it. But I honestly think that this one would not be happy unless it was underneath a sort of grow light like this. So the mother grow lights really do help with that. These little guys are just bits that fell off of the calancho plant that I just showed you, and I've just popped them into soil to see if I could get them to root. I'm not holding my breath. It's probably gonna take a while and it might not even work, so we'll see what happens with those. And then the other one in here is a little bit sad. I think it's a Senecio angel wing. I got it during the Christmas period and it has been a little bit on the struggle bus. You can see it's not looking its happiest, but I really like these soft leaves. Like, I like how white they are for one. And also they feel like little lamb's ears. They're so freaking soft. I was hoping that I would be able to save it by putting it into semi-hydro, but I'm really not sure. It just looks really dehydrated and unhappy, so I'm not sure what's gonna happen with this one, but I would love to be able to save it if I could. And then beneath those, I just have two plants on this shelf here. I have some golden pothos cuttings in water that I put in ages ago, and they are like insanely rooted in there. I should probably pot them up at this point. Oh, see, look, this was one of those echeveria leaves that just like fell off randomly, so I should probably throw that in the bin or try and prop it, but I don't really feel like propping it. But back to the golden pothos, I should probably pot this up at some point. There is a little kind of challenge I want to give myself in the new year about swapping plants. I want to do a plant swap, kind of like the red paperclip thing, where I can see how far I can get to, like, or how high up I can get to in plants. But I want to start with a golden pothos because they are super cool. So if anyone wants to swap for a golden pothos, if you're in the UK, let me know and I can make that happen for you. I'm very happy to send you all of these cuttings because I have golden pothos plants already. I can pot them up for you as well if you want, but just let me know and I would love to swap and we can see where that goes. And then next to it, we've got the Synapsis Trubii Moonlight. This one is actually growing so long. It grows all the way up there, and then down again. Look at that. I should probably chop it and prop it, but I just really love this plant and I like its gorgeous silvery leaves. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody because that's the kind of plants that I like, and I kind of like the dark middle of it. It's just such a funky one. Unfortunately, because it is growing up like this, I think the growth is getting a bit smaller, but I don't mind it that much, and I kind of like the look of it trailing up that wire there, so I'm not mad about it, and I'm hoping that I can just keep it happy. But I kind of ignore this one a little bit. It's just not one that's on the top of my radar. I feel like the plants that I have in this area are ones that I want to be able to not pay attention to too much. Like, this is not my priority area when it comes to plants, so I like putting things here that I'm okay with going a little bit more dehydrated or need less humidity or things like that. Below these ones on the ground here, I have a box of Pon goodies. Let's open that up because I feel like there's some really nice plants in this. So it looks quite full in this side. This side is quite a bit less full. So I guess I can start over here. This first one here, this is a Hoya Mathilde, and I think this is one of my favorite Hoyas. I feel like I've said this about every Hoya, but I think it is so cool. It's got these little button leaves, and if you give it enough light, they can grow like super dark with little splashes on them, which I think is so freaking cute. This one's just like rooting, kind of climbing the side of the container, which I'm not mad at. I would love to be able to give it a trellis at some point. I should probably move it out of this box. I feel like it's nearly getting to the top, and put it on a trellis instead, but just kind of been procrastinating on that a little bit. It seems happy enough in here, so I kind of don't want to disturb it. Next to it, I've got a variegated Macrophylla Hoya, and again, just in Pon. Everything in this box is in Pon. There's just like a layer of water at the bottom that they're all resting in. I probably need to clean it up at the minute because I just have let things spill in there and it looks a little bit gross, but I promise it's all totally fine. But this Macrophylla is in here. It hasn't done anything really for me. It's not really grown any new leaves. I did check it for flat mites when I did my microscope video, but didn't see any. Maybe I should check again because it does kind of look like it has the symptoms of flat mites. I'm just really not sure about it. I do quite like this plant though. It's got crazy veining and I love the white margins of it. It's just a pretty cool one, and I'm hoping I can get it to grow bigger at some point, but for now it's just being very slow in my Pon Box. Down here, we've got my tiny little baby Alocasia Jacqueline, which I grew from a corm that I got for my birthday. This one took ages and ages to root and sprout. I think it took like 6 months to get these leaves, but it is a double-headed corm. So there's just one corm in there that both of those leaves grew out of, which is super exciting. So it's got 2 growth points on it, and hopefully it will continue growing really well for me. I think this one is such a cool one because of that veining in there. It's like 3-dimensional and the leaves are hairy, which is again so unlike most alocasias. So it's definitely one that I'm excited to grow big in the future. This one here, oh my goodness, this leaf is just beautiful, is a Syndapsis Silver Hero, I believe. And this is the one that I have in Pon, the one that kind of scared me from Syndapsis in Pon, because for the longest time it had no leaves and it was just sitting in Pon for ages. Oh my goodness, look at those roots. I really need to like pot this up or something, but it's fine in here now. I think it's liking having quite high humidity. This leaf might be getting a little bit too humid. I don't open this box nearly as much as I should. I should probably open it like at least every few days for ventilation, but this box basically is 100% humidity because it's like a puddle of water that just evaporates most of the time. These are Anthurium vitrifolium seedlings, I believe. I got these in a swap in November, and they're just tiny little seedlings. I think they have grown for me a tiny little bit since I've had them, but not tons and tons and tons. I think they're getting a little bit too shaded in this box. This box does normally sit with a grow light on top of it for a few hours, not as many as some of my other spots, but I probably should program that light to go on a little bit longer to help with things like this, and maybe not hide this one underneath the Syndapsis, maybe put it somewhere like here instead. Got a Hoya in there. Got no idea what type of Hoya that is. I think I got it from the plant swap from Neha, so I'll have to ask her, but it's just another Hoya living in a box. Perfectly happy. You can see it's got water spots on it right now, which is great. And then we have another Alocasia. I found Alocasias really love this sort of Pon Box. They like the super high humidity and lots of moisture and not too much light, so I think they're very happy in here. I think this one's technically a Longiloba grandis, but to me this leaf looks exactly like a poly, so I'm not sure. This is another cutting I got for my birthday, and we will see what happens to it. I think it looks very similar to a poly, so it very well might be, and I'm not going to be mad at it because I do like the poly. But I'll just join it in with the other ones. And if it is a Longiloba grandis, then that's great. We'll see what happens when it gets bigger. Got a Syngonium in here, and I think this is a Syngonium like T24 or something. I don't quite remember, but it's got some like very funky green leaves on them. Some of them have a bit of variegation on there. I, to be honest, don't pay attention to this one at all. I kind of forget I have it most of the time, so we're just gonna move on from that one because it's not one that I pay attention to nearly enough. And then we're getting into the busy side, which I probably should clear out. I think this begonia, I think it's time to go, time to get, not go, but get out of this box. But I'm so nervous about it. This is a begonia white ice, and it is just growing so well. This is the best begonia I have ever grown. It is just so happy, and I love those little spots on the leaves. Like, it's what I wish my maculatta looked like, because I really like it. It looks super healthy and full. I'm scared to take it out of the 100% humidity because I know it will, like, probably throw a fit at some point, but it is, like, the lid literally presses on top of it. It is too big for this box now, unfortunately, so I will have to move it soon and take that plunge, and hopefully I can keep it growing really nice because I do think it is so beautiful. Next to it, the other thing that's taking up a lot of room in this area is an Anthurium Silver Blush. And this one is also doing super duper well in here. Again, I think it's loving the high humidity, and it is just so funky and weird, and I love it. It looks so different than other silver blushes that I've seen or had, so I really don't know what's going on with it, but I think it's perfectly happy in here, so it's going to stay in here. And then lastly, in the corner here, behind the begonia, I have an Alocasia cuprea Red Secret. This one I actually grew from bulbs from a plant that I killed. I don't know how I killed it, but I killed it, and there were a couple bulbs in the soil, and I was able to regrow it from that. It started out with like really tiny leaves down there, and it has finally started putting out bigger ones now as well, so I think it is quite happy in here. It's probably gonna get to the point where I need to move it out soon as well because it's quite near the top of the box, but I am again scared to do that. It'll probably end up getting moved into my cabinet, the Millsbow probably, because the light is slightly better for Alocasias in there. It's not too high, whereas the Rudsta can be a bit high for them, so I think I'll probably move it in there eventually, but it will require some moving stuff around, especially if I'm trying to put this begonia in there as well. I need to do something to adapt this begonia to like normal humidity because it's scary. But yeah, that is what is inside of my Pon Box. And then this is kind of the final section of the bedroom. Ignore the slight mess on the dressing table. This is the reality of my home. It's not clean all the time at all, ever. So we're just gonna shift the camera so you can't see that and get talking about the plants. This one here is a Philodendron Gloriosum, and I am so proud of this plant. It's one of my like all-time favorites. I got it as a tiny little cutting which had like 1 or 2 leaves this size, maybe even smaller. Like very small leaves, and I have grown it so much. I mean, it's not huge or anything, but I am just so proud of the amount that I have been able to grow it, and it is just so happy here. It's even got a new leaf on the way, which is super exciting. I love watching these ones come out. It's so cool. I'm so excited to see how big this one is. Unfortunately, I'll be away when it does open, but it's just so exciting. But I really love the heart-shaped leaves of this plant, and they're so velvety and like pillowy. It's just so freaking special. The only downside to the Gloriosum though is that it is a crawler rather than a climber, and crawlers tend to take up a lot of space. They're just a plant that you need room in order to grow, and mine isn't quite at the end yet. Maybe like 1 or 2 more leaves and it'll be at the end. But I do not know what I'm gonna do once it gets to the end of this trough, because I don't think I can find one bigger for any sort of reasonable amount of money. I'll probably have to chop this one and maybe start over, maybe sell or trade away the bottom half. But overall, I just really love this plant, and it really got me into the sort of velvety heartleaf philodendrons, and it's just such a happy one. Above it, on this shelf here, oh, I've just got an empty pot, that's awkward. Move that. But this was actually my first ever jungle cactus. This is a Ripsalis red coral, and I got it I think 2021 Christmas time in a swap, and I just didn't understand it. It wasn't my favorite for quite a while. I didn't get the whole jungle cactus vibe, but I was just like, we'll see how it goes, and I kind of just put it here because it was the only place that worked for it. And it has grown so well. Like, look, it's freaking touching the gloriosum. It has grown so long, and there's so many bits of new growth coming out of the top up here. It is just so happy, and it is a massive surprise to me. I didn't expect to love this one so much, but I genuinely really like it now, and it makes me so happy to see its beautiful long jungle cactus-y fronds growing, branching out like crazy. Oh my goodness, that is so exciting. It is just so freaking cool. I love this one a lot. And then behind it, in my other favorite little bust planter, I have some Hoya Croniana Super Silver cuttings. I say cuttings, they're an actual plant, but it is in a tiny, I feel like 5-6 centimeter pot, very small. But it has been growing pretty well. Like at the beginning when I put it in here, you could see his face, and now he's got like an emo fringe. So I think it is definitely time to give this one a bit of an upgrade. I might join it in with the cuttings that I have in the living room propagating, and I'll have to find something else to go into this cute little pot because I love this so much. It's so cute. But the Super Silver, oh my goodness, it is an absolutely phenomenal little one. It grows kind of slowly. It's not the fastest growing one I have, but like, I think it's totally worth it for these like super duper extremely silver leaves. It is so cool, and I mean, it's growing pretty well here considering it's not getting the most light. It does get quite a lot of grow light for a good amount of the day. It's got a mother grow light pointing down here, so on the weekdays this does end up getting like 12-15 hours of light a day, but other than that it's not really getting much like actual natural light or any actual natural light. So for that, it's doing pretty well. And then above that, this is the other Synapsis Exotica that I was talking about. This was my original Exotica that I got ages and ages ago, and it looks so different to the other one. I don't see how that they are the same plant. I have heard that this one might be a Synapsis Silver Queen instead of an Exotica because it's got very different leaves. I feel like the Exotica is much more silver, but this one has huge leaves. Even the ones that are like relatively small are quite big, and it's got some up here that are like, whoa, these are huge. So it is one that I really like, and it was actually the first plant that I ever put into semi-hydro or pon, and it's growing so well just along there like that. Put it on the mirror because it's so long. This vine actually trails down, loops around, comes back up, and is probably about there. So it is a very long plant, and this is kind of the only place that I could put it easily because there's so much vine. Another one at the top there is a Sansevieria zelinica. I think it's how it's pronounced. I bought this one because all of it was at this really cute little level, and I'd never seen a Sansevieria be so little and tiny, but it has grown so well. Like, these things, leaves, blades, are almost touching the ceiling there, and I love the really like weird stripes of it. It's just a really cool, strange little one, and I think it works really well in this area. It doesn't need tons of light, but it's getting probably more than it would if I put it in just the average spot in my home. I don't know if you can see that, but it's not that far from the grow light, so I think it is liking this quite a lot. And then we have my String of Hearts Silver Glory, which I have recently chopped, hence why there's another one there, just propping in some moss. But I chopped it because it was like all the way down to here, which is kind of intense and getting in the way of what we're trying to do in the mornings and stuff. But this one has, I mean, I know they're silver hearts, but I think they look more like buds. And I think this one is a little bit thirsty. You can see the leaves are wrinkled, so I should probably give it a good water. But I have put some in my String of Hearts propagation vessel of choice, aka a hummus pot, with the lid cut so that the moss stays moist, but I'm hoping that those root fairly soon and I can make a bit of a thicker plant. This one I also got with just like a few strands, and I have just been propping it slowly to grow it bigger and bigger, which is super fun, and I can't wait to see how it looks with the new ones in as well. And then up here, last but certainly not least, was my first ever houseplant, the one that started it all, my satin pothos. This is what brought me my love for houseplants. I am obsessed with Syndapsis. I always have been, apparently, and I can see why. They're just so freaking beautiful, and they've got beautiful leathery leaves and silver spots, and they're traily, and you can get them to climb if you want that. There's just so many possibilities with this one. It is a little bit dehydrated, so I should probably water it, but otherwise, it's just a very happy camper, and I've chopped and propped this one so many times. That's why it's not super full. I've just given so many cuttings away and traded so many, and it's just not been a priority about getting this one full, and I think I'm okay with that. I don't need it to be super full in order for me to be happy with it. I just love it so freaking much. It is the one that started it all, and so I think that's the perfect one to end on. So that is it. Those are all of the plants in my bedroom. I have a lot of plants in here as well. I've got a lot of plants in all of my rooms. I kind of only have 3 rooms in my flat, so fitting 200 plants in here somewhere, I don't know how I do it, but I have. Like I said earlier, if you haven't watched the other 2 parts of this video, I will link them down below in the description, so go have a look at those. But yeah, this is my entire collection. I really hope you enjoyed seeing how everything is doing, how it's changing and evolving over time. I also did this series in the summer of 2022, so if you want to see how things have changed since then, go have a look at that. But overall, I just have a lot of fun sharing my plants with you and showing you what they're doing, and some of them are great and some of them aren't doing as well, and I think that's completely normal, and especially during winter it's important to remember that it's not always going to be perfect. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a thumbs up down below and leave a comment on other houseplanty things you'd like me to talk about in the future. If you saw anything in this video that I haven't made a care video on or a how-to video on, let me know down below in the comments, and I will hopefully be able to make that for you in the future. And don't forget to subscribe for more. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!